This is Black Woman CEO. Welcome to the only podcast dedicated to giving you the raw and real experiences of successful Black women entrepreneurs. Yes, girl, we're talking about the behind the scenes strategies of what it takes to increase in your profit, power, and purpose. I am your host, Quanisha Green, and I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show. I hope you are enjoying this summit, maintaining your calm and confidence during a crisis. And today in this segment, we have Dr. Monikah Ogando. Hey, Dr. Monikah.
Hi, Quanisha.
Hey. And she's talking about making money moves in time of mayhem. It was so funny because we were debating, like, should we say mayhem or crisis? And then all the other speakers are using crisis. I was like, well, let's go back to mayhem. Get that alliteration on, everyone. But let me just quickly share why we're doing this today. And really what's the purpose of us having this discussion. So once again, not to date these videos, but there really are tips and strategies that you can use throughout your life in good and bad times. But particularly we're talking about these challenges of how do we stay calm and confident during crisis, because as a world right now, we're in a pandemic, we're experiencing the coronavirus, like big cities like New York maybe shutting down in 48 hours. Around the world, countries are actually shutting down. I'm on self-quarantine. We have counties on mandatory quarantine. So really in our lifetime, hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed, this is the first time we're experiencing something like this, although we know it's throughout history. So, but particularly times of crisis are hard hitting for entrepreneurs and small business owners. So whether you're like me and Dr. Monikah, where you do this full time, is business or bust, right? Or if you have it as a parallel career, it's still important to learn these effective strategies on how do you navigate like an unexpected world event or any types of crisis. So I'm so happy to have these Black women CEO experts, and I'm extra happy to have Dr. Monikah here because she's been an entrepreneur for like decades. She's not old, right? But she's seasoned. She's seasoned. Like, we'll do that, seasoned. And she's been my mentor, really helping me to master being a CEO along the way. So this is really an honor and pleasure. So thank you so much, Dr. Monikah. You know, we're doing this live on FB and they have an algorithm. And guess what? We have over 14,000 women on our platform and our Facebook page, over 5,200 in the group. And the more you interact with the video, it will help another sister rise, right? So it tells Facebook like, oh, this is good content. Let me share it more, right? So definitely react to the video. Let Dr. Monikah know what's resonated. Hit those likes and hearts, right? And leave your comments and questions along the way. What tip are you going to take on, right? So whether you're watching this live or the replay, and this will be repurposed as the podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast, the link to the video will be below. But also you can tell us how this resonates by leaving a comment on iTunes or whatever platform that you are listening. So, all right. So I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna Dr. Monikah, and she's gonna share her juicy money moves in times of mayhem.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Quanisha. And I am so delighted to be here with you all because this is probably the thing that is foremost in our minds. If you are an entrepreneur, then you know that you are the one that's responsible for your own revenue, for your own income, and the way that you distribute that. Some people, when you are unemployed, you have a little bit of a cushion there, making somebody else responsible for it. But ultimately, you are the CEO of your life and you are the CEO of your own economy, whether you are employed by somebody else or you are your own boss. And so I want to really give you some tactical things that you can do right now to make sure that you can manage your money, even in times of mayhem, so that you can really move forward in confidence and in clarity, as the theme of this of this summit is. So let me just hit present here so that we can have this in the full screen. And I do have you on another device. So if you, so I'll be looking at comments because I can't really see them in full screen. But I want to make sure that you can see this. So say yes in the chat if you can see this, to make sure that we are all playing from the same sheet of music. And here's what I'm going to say. Anytime that there's any level of mayhem, any level of crisis, any level of uncertainty, we first have to get in reality about things. What does that mean? That means that take a pause and figure out, okay, what is physically happening right now in my life, in my body, in my family, my bank account, et cetera? What's physically happening? What's the balance in the bank account? Do I know when things are coming, right? And how much do I have in savings? What's happening in my body in terms of stress, in terms of physical ailments, in terms of just all of that? Just take a pause and just get clear on where you are in the moment. Because typically what you will discover is that whatever stress you may be experiencing, whatever anxiety you may be experiencing, it is not in the now moment. It is something that you are fearing in the future or something that reminds you of some trauma in the past. So let's just get clear in the present moment about what is actually physically happening, okay? The next thing is assess your safety. Physical safety, emotional safety, mental safety. And what I mean by emotional safety is, for example, sometimes when we are in close quarters, there may be some people that do not respect your boundaries. We talked about boundaries before with the earlier speaker. There may be some people that don't know what your boundaries are. So they're actually stepping on, on your toes without even maliciously doing so. So you just want to assess that you're physically, emotionally, and mentally well and safe, right? And then what verifiable data do you have to inform your decisions? Do not consider news verifiable data. Because every time that you turn on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever your channel is, they're really just feeding whatever's going to drive their ratings. And I don't say that dismissively, okay? I don't say that dismissively at all, but we have to understand we are CEOs and we are entrepreneurs here. We understand that they're driving their business model just like we're driving ours. And their business model is based on eyeballs. So in order for them to get a lot of eyeballs, they have to keep stoking the emotional fires, right? So get clear, check with the CDC, check with your local government officials, et cetera, about what's happening in your city, in your town, what's happening in terms of the medical decisions that you have to make, et cetera. Rely only on verifiable data. The next is, I want to remind you that yes, of course, this is an economic downturn. We're not at all minimizing that. But Barron's reports that out of the last 15 economic downturns that we've had, only 7 of them have been a recession. That's kind of like a 50-50 chance. And even when it's been a recession, those recessions only last about an average of 11 months. So I'm going to give for entrepreneurs, because economic health really relies more on perception than it does on math. So we have to kind of be bilingual here. I'm going to be conservative and say instead of 11 months, I'm going to say 18 months. And keep that in mind for later, because I'm going to come back to that. And then the other question that I want you to think about is, what are you being called into? Because this is opening up opportunities for you that you may not have considered. What are some of the untapped or unexplored talent or resources that that are shaking out of you right now? Resources like collaboration with partners, with vendors, with subcontractors, or you becoming a subcontractor for somebody else. So there are things that are opening up and opportunities that are opening up for you now that perhaps you wouldn't have seen had things not shut down the way that they have. Okay, so let's look at the blessing in disguise here. I say that because a lot of times what happens is that we allow ourselves to kind of contract and draw within because of all of the fear and the, oh my God, that's happening out there, the panic that's happening out there. And I said this, and I have a private Facebook group as well. And I said this inside of my private Facebook group. I was like, I keep hearing about don't panic, don't panic. Who's panicking? Because when I look at the people that I talk to, my clients and people around my neighborhood, when I go for a walk, everybody seems perfectly fine. What is this panic you speak of? And so I want you to be a critical thinker and not allow that common conversation to become your truth. Again, verifiable data. I'm looking with my eyes and my physical body. I'm like, I am actually in conversations that have zero to do with panic. What are you talking about? Right? Do not allow it to be part of your reality if verifiably it doesn't look like, right? So my mission, I have a program, a workshop coming up tomorrow called Freedom in Your Finances. I know Cornisha is going to put the link in the chat, but my mission with that is to empower people, particularly women entrepreneurs, to be the producer instead of the consumer, and be the conduit, the generator, and the cause of a different level of energy and sovereignty in their lives and in the lives of the people that they're meant to impact. We're walking around sometimes as though everybody else's energy, thoughts, feelings, opinions, circumstances, agenda is somehow going to supersede our own. And I'm here to tell you that you are the cause in your own life, not somebody else. You get to say whether something that somebody else does affects your mood or affects your money or affects your energy, affects your impact in the world. That's not somebody else's decision. Let's just remember that. Okay, because a lot of times people get a little confused in times of crisis and uncertainty. Some of these grounded truths sometimes go by the wayside. And it's like, no, you don't get to give up your truth just because the circumstances have changed. So I want to tell you a little bit about where I come from with this. I started my first business by the age of 24 in the middle of a stage 4 cervical cancer diagnosis. It was a survival move, because I was a financial planner, I was a stockbroker, I was in the financial services field, and I still am, and I'm going to tell you about that a little bit later. And in the middle of being accused of not doing my job, which what I thought was a performance review for a promotion, was actually a firing squad. And my own survival instinct came up because I hadn't even divulged to anybody that I was, what am I going to do with this stage 4 cervical cancer diagnosis? I might be dead in a year. These people are trying to mess with my money. My life is at stake. Like, my life is at stake. We are not letting other people have a say about what is going to happen with my life. And like the mama bear came up, because my daughter at the time was 3 years old. And I was like, you're messing with my baby's milk, okay? You're messing with her roof over her head. I'm not doing this. And so I started my business. And over the period of those next 7, almost 8 years, I had it in my mind, Oprah became a millionaire when she was 32. So I wanted to be a millionaire by age of 32, and I was able to accomplish that. I've been ranked in the Inc. 500 as one of the fastest growing companies in the US. I have authored some books, and I coach and I speak and I empower entrepreneurs like you across the world. That's been my life mission. It's going to be until the day that I die. Let's just settle that, right? So I've done a lot of things right because I've been an investor. I've been in trading the markets since I was in my 20s. I'm now in my 40s, but I've also done a lot of things wrong. I've missed a lot of opportunities, and I've fudged a lot of chances that I've been given. So when I'm talking to you about this stuff and I speak as though my opinion were verifiable truth because of my own conviction, it's because I've lived it. It's because I know the sleepless nights. I know the what the heck am I going to do now conversations that you have at 3 a.m. in the morning, because I've had them, right? And so I want to be able to give this to you because I know I'm not going to be able to touch everything in the next 20 minutes. So I want to give you an opportunity to delve deeper into everything that I'm going to be touching upon, which is why I'm inviting you to Freedom in Your Finances. It's a free workshop that I'm doing tomorrow. It's my birthday tomorrow. So it's actually me giving you something for my birthday. freedominyourfinances.com. And I know that, again, Quenisha is going to put that link in the comments. It's free. And if you cannot be there live, that's fine, because you'll get the recording. Now, let me get into these tips. I have about 10 tips for you. And the first thing that I want to say is that businesses kind of fall into 4 categories. You have to know where you are in the life cycle of your business. There are some, and I liken it to kind of like the 4 seasons in the human being's life, because we create after our own likeness. And so our businesses are like us, right? And so in the same way that a human being has that infancy and childhood stage, a business has the startup phase. And in the startup phase, the number one priority, just like when a baby is first born, the first thing that the doctor is concerned about is let this baby take a breath, right? So the oxygen that the baby needs in order to be viable outside of the womb is the money that your business needs to survive in order to be able to be self-sustaining, right? And so for a startup, that means generating sales. If you don't have investors, if you don't have loans, if you don't have savings that you're injecting into the business, then it has to sustain itself through sales. That's the number one priority when you're in stage 1 startup, okay? Stage 2 is scaffolding, what I call scaffolding. So if you've ever seen a building being put up, scaffolding is when it's standing straight, but it still needs some support. And this is kind of like adolescence for human beings. An adolescent can feed themselves, they can walk, they can bathe themselves, they talk, right? So they're kind of self-sufficient, but they still need some guidance and still need some guardrails. And it's the same thing with your business. And what that means is at that point, your business needs systems. So the first thing that it needs at the startup phase is sales. The second thing that it needs in stage 2, which is adolescence or scaffolding, is systems. Okay? The third phase in a business is kind of like the adult phase. And for us as humans, that's the longest phase. It may or may not be the longest phase for a company. And that is the sustainability stage, the success stage, when you're just a productive adult member of society and your business is just doing its thing, it's humming along. What you need at that point is superstars. Superstars means building your team, duplicating yourself so that it's not just the systems that are automating, but your team and their genius and their resources and their talent is taking it to the next level. Okay. And then the fourth and final stage is your legacy stage. Legacy stage is kind of like old age for human beings. And at that point, you might be considering rebranding or selling your business or going public, et cetera. There's some level of death and rebirth that's happening at the legacy level. And at that point, what you need is a legacy and succession plan. So given all of that, across the board with all of those 4 stages, I'm curious to know which stage you think that your business is in. I would love for you to put it in the chat. I'm in startup phase. I'm in scaffolding stage. I'm in the success stage or sustainability stage rather, or I'm in the legacy stage. Let me know in the chat which one you're in. But all of these tips are going to apply to each and every one of those 4 stages, and they're going to be a little bit different. Again, I don't have time to go into it now, but we will talk about it in the Freedom in Your Finances workshop tomorrow. So tip number 1, of course, is do not panic. And the reason I say that is because you cannot make decisions out of a place of fear. When your reptilian brain is the one that's making decisions, then you make decisions out of survival and not out of strategy. Okay. And so anything that comes from a place of fear, you're going to ignore data. There's going to be some opportunities and there's going to be some important information that you're going to miss because you're not looking at data. You're looking at, grabbing the guardrail, so to speak, because you feel like you're in a free fall. So yes, run it through your gut. Yes, run it through your heart. Yes, run it through your vision. Right? We went through all stages, chakra stages. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But you know what? You've probably lived through something like this before. This just feels new because it's unprecedented. You probably have dealt with an economic downturn before. You've dealt with uncertainty before. It may not have been a pandemic, but it doesn't matter how the uncertainty comes. You've dealt with it before and you're still here, right? And so what we're responding to really is mass hysteria, not the actual trigger. So we have to get as much clarity as we can and then answer those questions that I gave you earlier to yourself. Tip number 2 is review your financial plan. There's an ancient Chinese saying that says, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago. The best next time is today. So I want you to review your financial plan, like get clear on what are my monthly expenses, what is my income, what's the debt load that I'm carrying, what are some of the short-term high-ticket expenses that I had coming up, whether that be a family vacation that I had to pay out of pocket with cash, or long-term high-ticket expenses like buying a house or replacing your car or any kind of home repairs, any kind of capital investments in your business, new equipment or whatever the case may be. And I want you to also get clear on what are your variable expenses and what are your fixed expenses. Like rent may be fixed, right? But paying your graphic designer may be a variable expense depending on the load that you put them on a particular project. Okay? So I want you to reduce those variable expenses whenever possible. Look through your subscriptions. You probably are subscribing to a lot of recurring payment things that you may not necessarily be using. Or switch your retainer vendors from their retainer fees to hourly for the time being, so that you can still pay them, they can still make money, but you're also creating a win-win with your own cash flow. Most business owners are slowly spending nowadays. So you just want to make sure that you're doing it judiciously and strategically. And because people are wanting to stay involved, to retain their own clients, they're likely to be open to renegotiating with you certain terms, which I'll get into in the next few tips. Okay, so tip number 3 then is to reallocate your resources. Reallocate resources. Maybe you have someone on your team who, like I mentioned before, is a graphic designer, but they're awesome at connecting with people. They're really good listeners, and they are good at repeating back what they've heard so that the other person feels heard. And it's like, okay, that creates trust. And this person could be, if you don't have graphic design jobs for them to do right now, but they could be an ad hoc sales force for you, maybe. This is something for you to consider. It might be an opening for them to continue to make money, because if you don't have any graphic design jobs for a graphic designer, they're going to need to do something else. And maybe they can do something for you that helps you to bring in some revenue. Tip number 4, I want you to fill in the gaps. If your financial plan reveals, oh crap, I got to get it together. Now is not the time to get it together. Now is the time that getting it together would have prepared me for, right? Again, don't panic. Remember the oak tree proverb, right? The best time to have planted an oak tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. So it's the same thing with your finances. It's never too late to get it together. So if your financial plan reveals gaps, like, oh, I don't have as much money in my emergency fund as I need to. And what does that mean? What is the milestone for you? Some people recommend 6 months. I recommend a year for the reason that I just told you, because sometimes a recession on the average lasts about 11 months. So I just rounded up to a year. And so see if you can increase revenue by offering volume sales or changing your customer base. I just recently heard in the news, there was some distillery here in Atlanta, Georgia, that is actually, instead of selling alcohol, they're actually using some of that unused alcohol that people are not buying and creating hand sanitizers for for hospitals, for first responders, et cetera. So they're still selling what they're selling. It's a distillery, they sell alcohol, but they are now approaching it for the present need. So it's an opportunity for you to be, mindful of what's the opportunity here. Maybe you can also offer payment plans or extend them. I have a program called Women, Wealth, and Worthiness, which is coming out this month. And that program sells for $1,000. And typically I do not offer a payment plan for that. But this time I will, because people need the information that's in Women, Wealth, and Worthiness. I'm much more interested in you getting that information and becoming financially literate than getting $1,000 out of you. And so it's important to give things to people, to make it easy for your customers to say yes to you, offering early bird incentives or pay in full incentives. Because guess what? There are 7 billion people on the planet. Not everybody is operating out of a stage of fear. Not everybody is financially strapped. Not everybody is suffering. And so you want to make sure that you don't just globalize the pandemic in psychology is what I'm saying, right? Of course, it's inherently a pandemic is global, but you don't want to catastrophize the effect of it when it doesn't have to be. The next tip is to renegotiate agreements. Talk to your lenders, talk to your utility company, to your mortgage company to reduce interest rates, to waive late fees or other penalties that you may have incurred, to give you a 60-day or a 90-day reprieve without reporting to credit agencies so it doesn't affect your credit. I want you to just negotiate terms, and you might have to renegotiate terms with people that you're not necessarily utilities, but people that you buy services from also. Like, I want to pay you, but this is the way that I can continue to give you money based on the services that I'm buying from you. Okay. Tip number 6 is to diversify your income. So perhaps, like many of us are coaches or speakers, and perhaps now you've lost some speaking income because of travel constrictions, but you can still do webinars. You can still do webinar series. You can still do virtual workshops. And those can be great revenue, especially because there's so much of a need for content at this point, and I'm going to get into that in a future tip. So maybe writing, maybe producing online courses, maybe subcontracting. There may be some people who are raking in the money, and you can be subcontracting for them, taking out some of that slack work that you may not necessarily have been able to sell it or produce it, but you can certainly execute on the customer fulfillment for it and get paid for that. Okay. The next is to reframe your money makers. Don't cut the money makers. I've heard people saying, oh, should I be selling right now? I don't know. Of course you should be selling right now. Of course. Quenisha, I didn't hear the live that you did about this, but when I saw the title, I was like, you know what my answer is going to be. When do I ever turn away money? When, Sway? So you wanna reframe the money makers, reevaluate your messaging, your offers, minimize the impact that selling this might have on your team. Now is the time to keep service as usual, because your audience is paying attention now more than ever. We are noticing which ones are the companies that are denying paid leave to their employees. Which are the companies that are just kind of like shutting down or retreating or withdrawing, and they're just acting out of fear? Which ones are the ones that are putting profits before people? And so if that's the case, do I want to do business with these folks? And you want to make sure that you are auditing your own company through that lens as well, so that you can show up as first of mind when they are there to make a decision. That means that you want to keep up and amplify your visibility. Speaking of visibility, I want you to pitch your expertise. Pitch your expertise to local news outlets, especially if it applies to dealing with coronavirus, like somebody mentioned, best workouts to do at home, or activities for kids at home, or productivity tips for people that are now working from home and they're not used to it. Decluttering your home during this time. Or if you're a business owner, what kind of things do you need to do in the back office to set yourself up for the ramp up? All right. One of my private clients, I manage a hedge fund for them. And part of my job now is to allay the fears of their investors. And so I'm constantly having to be on the phone, guiding people through a particular question cycle, or a particular doubt cycle, or a particular freak out cycle. And I'm like, you know what? Everybody's going through this. Why don't I just put everybody in a conference call and let's just hash this out together? Because again, the only reason why this is amplified like that is because sometimes you think that you're going through something alone and you're not. If we realize that we've always been in community and that we're in this together, then it makes it go so much faster. When I was going through my cancer experience, I remember one night I stayed up late and I was just so stressed. I was like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to pay this. I now don't have a job. Cobra is too expensive. I don't have insurance. This was before the Affordable Care Act. What the heck am I going to do? And I just broke down and cried. And my daughter was in her room sleeping, and she overheard me crying. She came to the dining room and she sat on my lap and she's like, Mama, what's wrong? And I was like, oh, baby, I just have things on my mind. And it's okay. You don't have to worry. Everything's going to be okay. And she says, but if you really thought it was going to be okay, you wouldn't be crying. Tip number 1, let your words and your actions match, right? And then she started crying. I was like, baby, I just told you we're going to be fine. Why are you crying? She said, Mama, if you cry and I cry, it goes by faster. And I just thought, man, I'm getting emotional just remembering it. This was over 20 years ago. This is the best definition of compassion that I have ever heard, of empathy that I have ever seen in person, right? Kids just get it so intuitively that when we do something together, it goes by faster. It makes the uncomfortableness, or it gets the fear or the struggle, it just makes it so much more bearable. And so you just want to be out there being of service and offering your expertise so that people know that they're not alone and there are ways to cope with whatever it is that they're dealing with. So what did I give you? I gave you some examples for a parenting coach, for a clutter coach. And also, let me just tell you that local news stations want to feature local businesses with timely, relevant, virtual conference room kind of things. You are perfectly fine just doing a conference like this. You don't have to be in the studio. You can actually just, with a webcam and an internet connection, you can participate in a news cycle, right? So now, tip number 9, keep your campaigns steady, Freddie. Steady, steady, steady. Keep them going, but honor the journey. You might have to go into your CRM and edit some of your automated funnel emails to address what's going on right now. You might need to go into your social media calendar and insert personal stories of what you may be going through so that your customers and your audience understands, oh, she's human, she's relatable, she's going through this too, or how she's faring, right? And then finally, when in doubt, focus out. Come up with a way to serve. Just like Quenisha did now, a virtual summit where she's just, collecting these experts to be able to contribute to you. And we're contributing to each other. I've learned from Aisha. I've learned from, all the earlier 3 ladies that came before me. So maybe you want to do a mini course. Maybe you want to do a 30-day challenge. Maybe you want to give somebody a free month of membership to your subscription service. Maybe you want to discount something that you would ordinarily have as an upsell bonus or a downsell bonus. Give it away for free. You're already giving it away for free for a paid thing. Then give it away for free as a gesture of goodwill for your clients and your customers. I just want to say to you, Quenisha and I, she always jokes with me because she's like, I don't know how it is that we start a conversation to talk about sales and we always end up talking about spirit. Hey, that's what you get when you deal with Dr. Monikah. I just want you to know that you are one spiritually aligned strategy away from executing consistently for predictable results and purposeful impact. What does that mean? That means that you don't have to choose one or the other. They go together. People say, oh, well, I'm either true to my soul or I sell out my soul in order to make money. No, untrue, completely false, especially in times like this, when customers are so much more smart and so much more discerning and asking so much more questions, and they can actually cancel, a vendor or a company that isn't doing right just by spreading the word. And so if you are not in alignment with your spirit, with what your soul is calling forth, then what the heck are you doing? And that's not out of malice. People aren't making that choice out of malice. They're making that choice out of ignorance because they don't know that they can be integrated. They don't know that actually the way to profit is to be integrated, right? And so one of the things that I'm going to talk about tomorrow in the Freedom in Your Finances class is these energy centers. I don't know if you're familiar with chakras, but those are energy centers inside of your own body. And when you look at the way that we're built, this is why there's so much wisdom in universal law. When you look at the way that a human being is built, from the root chakra all the way to the crown chakra, it tells you what you need to concern yourself with in order to be able to elevate your business. That's why the first conversation that I had with people at the root chakra level is about survival. So the first question that I don't ask about your mission, your vision, your values. I ask you, how much money do you want to make? What are your prices? What are you selling? So that we can do the math. Because before we can get to mastery, we need to make sure that the math is right. Okay. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about tomorrow is what are the concerns at each level, at the root chakra level, at the sacral chakra level, at the solar plexus. First of all, what do they even mean? And how do I then insert them into my business so that my business can also elevate the way that it should, so that I can be spiritually aligned and so that I can operate from a spiritual master. Nicole says, crown chakra has been speaking to me right now concerning my business. You see, when the opportunity here is maybe collectively as a civilization, not just a country, as a civilization, we needed to clear the decks so that we could hear directly from our source about how to move next. Being indistractable is a freaking gift. It's a skill, right? And so I just told you about the chakras, the 4 lower bodies: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual intelligence. So to be able to handle what does it mean in each one of those categories, what does each one of those categories have to do with money? So the physical one is obviously how much is in the bank account, how much do I need, how much do I have, how much do I need to go get? The emotional aspect of it is sometimes you're not even dealing with math. You're just dealing with mess inside, with a story that got built in your 0 to 7 programming from the time that you were born to the time that you were 7 years old. Your personality and your subconscious beliefs were already caked in there. And then out of that foundation, then you create mental constructs about what does women and money have to do with men and money? What's the relationship between gender, race, socioeconomic class, nationality? You make unconscious connections between labels and certain results that you may not necessarily be conscious of, but they are affecting your behavior. And that either leads to or blocks you from your own spiritual intelligence, from your own spiritual intuition. And so those four pieces, those four lower bodies are kind of like that green square. It's kind of like the triangle, the square that is the foundation of your consciousness. And then that purple triangle is like the way that you reach that spiritual mastery, that spiritual self-evolution. And so I'm here to tell you that your consciousness is your currency. Your consciousness is your currency, not your job, not your clients, not your launches, not the event gig. It's your consciousness. And so when you understand that, when you understand that these things are not the source of money, I am money, particularly if you're a person of color. For a long time, owning you or your ancestors was the way that other people measured their level of wealth. You literally are wealth. I want you to really let that sink in. You're walking around here looking for money when you are money. And so my challenge to you, I know sometimes I talk a lot and I talk real fast, and I know I've gone over time. If you're overwhelmed, Oliver, or determined, Dennis, which one are you? Are you overwhelmed, like, oh my God, drinking from a fire hose? Or determined, Dennis, like, okay, this is the boost that I needed. Put me in, coach, right? Which one are you? I want to see in the chat. I want to see which one you are. Are you overwhelmed, Oliver, or determined, Dennis? Because it is your identification that's going to reveal your ideas and your impact. It's not your strategies. At the end of the day, it's your identification. Who do you say that you are? Who do you say that you are? And this is a little exercise that I give all of my clients. I'm going to give it to you as well. Wherever you have the word I, or you say I am, put God in it and see if it still makes sense. I don't know what I'm going to do. God doesn't know what he's going to do. I don't have any money. God doesn't have any money. I don't have the time to deal with this right now. God doesn't have the time to deal with this right now. If it doesn't make sense about God, it doesn't make sense about you, baby. It just doesn't. And so we have to just get really clear. We're walking around here fearful and afraid as though you're not a stream of divinity. Like, the reason that we have this moment now is so that the light bearers can bear the light. Not so that you can hide yourself under a bushel. That's not what we called you for. That's not what we hired you for, says Spirit, right? And so where to go from here? I have a community. I told you, the Thrive Tribe. You can look it up online. It's here on Facebook. Quenisha's part of it. And it's an opportunity for us to connect, to thrive on this, to vibe on this. But I just want to invite you also to another bonus. I know I've talked about freedom in your finances. That's a workshop that's happening tomorrow. If you can't make it live at 2 p.m. Eastern, that's fine. You register anyway and get the recording. But the other thing that I wanted to give to you is to talk to me. Walk your way to wealth. The link to my calendar is there. And this is really just impromptu. Quenisha, sorry that I didn't give you this link. It was really a last minute thing that I added. But if you want to talk to me about how to create that freedom plan for yourself, to walk your way to wealth, like your plan to wealth, not just what your husband thinks you should do, or your mama thinks you should do, or your peers and what you think you should be doing so you can keep up with the Joneses. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about aligning your success with your spirit and walking your way to the wealth that's inherently your birthright. So we can talk about that. And that is what I have for you today. I'm excited that Quenisha, you gave me another opportunity to preach because I was feeling fired up. There was somebody that was asking me the other day, how do you feel? I'm like, what do you mean, how do I feel? I feel fantastic. This is awesome. This is an opportunity for us to show the world what we're made of. This is not the time for us to crumble. There's enough people crumbling out there. Whenever something like this is happening, look for the helpers. And I'm going to assert that's you. Are you there, Konisha?
I'm here. For some reason, my video is not. Okay. Well, I'm trying to show both of us at the same time. Okay, I think, can everyone both see both of us?
I see
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Monikah. I was, the next person was like, am I on next? I was like, yeah, I said, but I did not tell Dr. Monikah. She's over time. Not the next person was asking. She was like, oh, I'm learning too. Like, so I always tell folks, because Dr. Monikah was our keynote for the Black Women CEO podcast, and you've done so much. And Dr. Monikah, like literally I've been her private client in groups. And so I always say, I'm giving you my Dr. Monikah.
Right.
We went to the same high school at different times, right? So I just love, like she said, there's always a spiritual component, and she really makes you look. And I'm like, I don't want to do introspective work today. Can you just tell me about what business that she's like, this is the business stuff that you should be doing. Right. So I really hope, and I was writing the tips as we went along, like she gave you some, all of them are practical, right? But she gave you some of the practical things like, you know, calling your vendors and changing your payment plan, but also the deeper aspects of like, don't panic, right? Look at yourself. You know, reconsider maybe how you're approaching your work and think about what that is and how are you showing up in the marketplace? How do you want to lead, right? Mm-hmm. And so I always love this. And so there's lots of comments. Let me see if I can just catch some of them because I know we have to have the next person. And Nicole said, yes, crown chakra has been speaking to me right now concerning my business. Hunaya says, I love the chakra chart.
Hunia is one of my clients too. Hi, Hunia.
Aisha said money, Cardi B. Nicole said determined dentist. Hunia said determined dentist. Cassandra said determined dentist. Lots of the tips show I'm on track. That was great. And so those are just some of the comments, and people have been heartening and liking it up. So definitely connect with Dr. Monikah. I put the information in about the Freedom Workshop. I also put the information in about the Walk Your Way to Wealth private call with her. And once again, this is going to be reshared as a podcast. So, I mean, the workshop may be over, but you'll have her where you can talk to her directly and definitely get that call. And I've done even VIP days with Dr. Monikah, and totally shifts the way you think about yourself, your business, where you need to heal from to get to your next level. And she'll tell you what chakra needs to be freed up and how to do that. Self-meditative baths. Like, I'm telling y'all, it's really great. So
I'm going to tell them how we've cried together and laughed together.
Right, y'all. So I know I could go on and on and on about Dr. Monikah, but please connect. Go over to her Thrive Tribe, get connected. You won't regret it. So thank you so much, Dr. Monikah, for being here with us and talking about how we can maintain our calm and confidence during crisis. Appreciate you so much, and thank you.
I love you. I love all of you. I'll talk to you soon.
Oh girl, the episode stopped, but the party is not over. I want you to go ahead and subscribe, like, and rate this show. Leave us a comment sharing your takeaways. And when you're done with that, come on over to blackwomanceo.com, join our movement. And when you do that, you'll get the special invitation to join us in our community. Well, I would love to put a face to that name, girl. So this is Quanisha signing off, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Peace and love.